Hi guys, welcome to our second flip lesson here for this school year. You should have already watched. Let me hide that. Okay, you should have already watched your first flip lesson. Kind of got the idea of it. But remember, the idea of these is that we do the stuff that where I have to stand in the front of the classroom and talk here on video, and then we have more time in class to practice together. So it's kind of like backwards. We do the lecture stuff at home, and then we do the homework stuff at school. And the subject of today's flip lesson is grammar. A lot of these are going to be grammar lessons. And we're going to start with an introduction to sentences. You've been writing sentences since you were in second and third grade. So today's kind of a review. So let's first of all, let's talk about what complete sentences are. And you should all be able to know this basically by memory. But a complete sentence is any group of words with a subject and a verb that expresses a complete thought. Simple. You guys have learned that since second or third grade. Now, what does every sentence have to have? Again, most of you probably remember this. All sentences have to have a capital letter and an end mark. We really shouldn't, in seventh grade, we really shouldn't have to go back to talking about capitalizing at the beginning of sentences. Also, all sentences have to end with a period, exclamation point, or a question mark. That's easy stuff. That may be all I ever have to talk about that for the whole year, hopefully. Next, all sentences have to have a subject. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today is finding the subject of sentences. All sentences have to have a verb. Now, we also sometimes like to use the fancy term predicate, but it's the same thing as a verb, an action word. We'll talk about that today. And then lastly, it has to encompass a complete thought. It has to have a complete thought to it. You can't just kind of halfway go through a sentence and I was, and then it just fades away. That's not a complete thought. And that's one of the things we focus on actually for the whole school year is getting that complete thought down on your paper. All right, so what's a subject? A subject is always a noun, okay? And I shouldn't have to go back and talk about what nouns are. You've had those memorized since second grade. Mrs. Rabel over here does not have to teach you what 2 plus 2 is every year, so I expect you to remember what a noun is. And basically what you ask yourself when you're trying to find your subject is, who or what does the action in a sentence? Or, who or what is a sentence about? It's better to do it. It's easier sometimes to do an example here. So let's take a look at an example. Excuse me. My aunt's cat climbed up the tree. So who did the climbing in this sentence? The cat, right? Easy stuff. Find the noun. Let's practice some of these. The Johnsons are adding a deck to their backyard. Let me grab my pointer here real quick. The Johnsons are adding a deck to their backyard. So what's the action in the sentence? It's adding, right? So who's doing the adding? The Johnsons. So your first subject there is Johnsons. The speeding hot rod crashed into the pole. What's doing the action? What's doing the crashing? A hot rod, correct? Ron's bedroom is a disaster. What's the sentence about? The bedroom, right? Or bedroom. The bright silver coin sparkled in the sunlight. What's doing the sparkling? A coin. And last, put your paper in the basket when finished. Uh-oh. Who is the sentence about? Or what is the sentence about? Is it paper? Is paper the subject? No. You should have had this probably a couple times, but anytime you see a sentence that gives a direction, an imperative sentence, the subject is always you, because it's asking you to do something. In this sentence, it's asking you to put your paper in the basket when you're finished. So the subject of any imperative sentence is you. And we'll touch on that again when we get to sentence types, probably down in a couple days down the road. But yeah, the subject of every imperative sentence is you. If you remember that, that's one of the great lessons of seventh grade. All right. All sentences also actually have to have a verb or an action word. Verbs, there are two kinds. There are action verbs, which are the things that we do in a sentence. Ran, jumped, walked. And then there are linking verbs. And that just connects the subject to another word in the sentence. Those are words like is, are, was, were, etc. And we'll talk about those here in a minute. Let's do a little practice here. My aunt's cat climbed up the tree. What did the cat do? What did the cat do? The cat climbed. Now, is that a linking or an action verb? Can you see someone climbing? Yes. So that is an action verb. Now, my aunt's cat is in the tree. The subject is still cat. What's the cat doing? Now, that's kind of hard because you can't visualize that, but the cat is just being. It is. The cat is. He's just being. You can't see it happen, but it just is. It's one of those weird things of English. The easiest way to do this is to memorize this list. And you're going to see this many, many times. It's am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. Some people also talk about has, have, or had in there too. But right now, if you memorize those 7, right, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, those 7 words. Is it 7? 1, 2, 3. 8 words. Those 8 words. We're not a math class. It makes finding linking verbs infinitely easier for you. So let's practice a little bit with verbs. The Johnsons are adding a deck to their backyard. So who's doing what are the Johnsons doing? They are adding. The speeding hot rod crashed into the pole. What did the hot rod do? It crashed. Ron's bedroom is a disaster. What state is Ron's bedroom in? It is a disaster. We'll have to practice a little bit more with linking verbs there, a little bit harder. The bright silver coin sparkled in the sunlight. What did the coin do? It sparkled. And here's the tricky one. Put your paper in the basket when finished. What is this asking you to do? It's asking you to put your paper. So put. And we'll practice some of those again. So this is basically to give you an idea of a basic background of subjects and verbs. Usually this takes a couple days to practice. So we'll probably do this flip lesson and then have a couple days of practice in class. You'll have some homework. So that is pretty much the end of our flip lesson number 2, our first real flip lesson. Remember to keep an eye out for secret messages. You never know where you're going to see one. You never know when you might see a secret message that might get you some bonus points or something. But that's the end of our first flip lesson. And we'll have some homework here for you when you get back and see this on whatever day we finish this.